Good afternoon. Today we're going to talk about one-step equations. Now, the key thing about one-step equations is we only have to do one operation. That's what makes them one step. Now, when we do two-step operations tomorrow, we're going to have two steps to work on. But again, today it's one-step equations, so one-step operations. Now, we have to think about undoing what we see, or opposite operations. Now, as a reminder, when we say operations, we're talking about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So let's start by talking about what are opposite operations. So the opposite of addition is subtraction, and the opposite of subtraction is addition. That's why I made the double-sided arrow. Multiplication is the opposite of division. So we're going to use the opposite operation to help us solve for a variable. Now, most of these are going to be pretty simple that you could do in your head. I still want you to follow the steps that we're doing right now, because when we get to more complicated equations, it'll make life a lot easier. So even though you could probably do a lot of these in your head, please just follow the steps. It'll make life easier down the road, and when we get more complicated, less likely to make mistakes. So, let's start with a problem. Let's look at, change the color here, let's look at x plus 3 equals 7. When we see equations, the thing we should think of are balances and scales. If you think about it, the idea of the scale is to keep it balanced. So we've all seen a scale before, right? We want to keep it balanced. So consider the equal sign the middle of the scale, with one side being the part with the variable and the other side the part without the variable. What do we have to do? What can x be in order for this scale to be balanced? So, yes, you can probably figure it out on your own. What plus 3 is going to be 7. I know you could do this in your head, but let's pretend that we couldn't and we want to do this out the long way. First thing we're going to think about is what is the we have to get the variable alone. We call that isolating the variable. Isolate the variable means get it alone. Again, you should be taking notes on this. If you're not, pause the video, grab a piece of paper if you don't have your notebook with you, and start copying and rewatch the video so you can take notes. You're going to need this in class tomorrow. That's why we're doing this. So, now that we know where the variable is, and the idea is to get it by itself, what is it connected to? Well, it's connected to this plus 3. Well, how do I get rid of a positive 3? If you remember back when we were dealing with integers, what is the opposite of positive 3? Well, the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. And positive 3 minus 3, or positive 3 plus negative 3, however you want to think about it, equals 0. And that's what we want to do. We want to get 0 next to that x, because anything plus 0 is, you've guessed it, 0. So, we're going to subtract 3. Now, because this is a scale, we want to keep things balanced. So what we do to one side of the equal sign, we have to do to the other side. So we want to keep it balanced. What we do to one side, of the equal sign, we do to the other. So, if we're subtracting 3 on one side, we have to subtract 3 on the other. Some people find it helpful to draw a line through the equal sign so they can see both sides of the equation easier and they don't mess up. But this one's up to you. This one you can do or not do. Whoops. The 3's we say cancel out or reduce to 0, so I don't have to write them. All I have left on this side is x, my equal sign, and 7 minus 3 we all know is 4. So x equals 4. Now, again, you could have figured that out on your own, I'm sure. Let's look at another problem. Let's look at 9 equals x plus 4. Now here, my x is on the other side of the equal sign. It doesn't matter, we still do the same thing. Again, we want to get x by itself. We want to isolate that variable. It's connected by plus 4. So I have to take the opposite of positive 4. We want to get it to 0. What do I do to positive 4 to get it to be equal to 0? I have to subtract 4 or add negative 4. What I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to subtract 4 from the other side. My 4's cancel each other out or equal up to 0, so I don't have to write them. I have x equals 9 minus 4 is 5. And we're just going to flip that around so it looks prettier. X equals 5. Yes, the proper way, again we spoke about math grammar in the past, is to have variable equal number. So grammar note. Variable equals number. This is just, it looks neater, it looks prettier, and makes more people happy. So go ahead and switch it. You don't have to, but like I said, makes people happy. Let's look at another problem. Look at negative 2 plus x equals 6. Well, again, I have to get my variable by itself. I'm going to draw my line. Now, what is the opposite? What do I do to negative 2 to get it to be 0? Well, I add 2. Plus 2, what I do to one side, I do to the other. My 2's equal 0. I get x equals 8. And we know that negative 2 plus 8 equals 6. Notice, I'm not using very hard numbers here. If we could do it with easy numbers, we could do it with fractions, decimals, whatever. Just a matter of plugging it into your calculators. Let's look at another problem. X minus 7 equals 10. Get the variable by itself. Draw a line down the center. We have to isolate the variable, get it by itself, get rid of it minus 7. To get rid of minus 7, the opposite is positive 7. Add it to both sides, because what we do to one side, we do to the other. My 7's become 0. I don't have to write my 0. 10 plus 7 is 17. Okay, one more problem. Ready? Here we go. X minus 7 equals 10. Oops, I just did that one. Silly me. So, not one more problem. How about I give you some problems to try? Okay, first problem. Problem 1. Look at x minus 10 equals 8. And the answer box is going to pop up in a moment. Go ahead and put the answer in. When I solve this, got to get the variable by itself. Draw a line down the equal sign. Again, you don't have to draw that line. Plus 10, plus 10. My 10's reduced to 0. I have x equals 18. Problem 2. 24. Whoops, that's not 24. 24 plus x equals 16. Again, put your answer in the box when it pops up. Isolate the variable. Draw the line down the equal sign. To subtract 24, remember if there's no sign, it's really a positive. Minus 24. My 24's turn to be zeros. I don't have to write them. Equals 16 minus 24 is negative 8. So here x equals negative 8. Okay, notice, and I should have been doing this all along, we circle our final answer. The reason why we circle it is so when there's a whole bunch of numbers on the paper with x's all over the place, we know where to focus our eye so we can find the answer. So next time we're going to be looking at multiplication and division. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.